Chapter 14. I arrived on a hill red with rhododendrons. Putting my rucksacks down at the tea shop, I took off my shirt and wrung out the sweat. A long sigh escaped my lips. Some porters were resting nearby. They took some biscuits out of their packs. Had I asked the shopkeeper for tea? I couldn't remember. A little girl brought me a glass of tea. I took it and, sipping, looked at the hillside. I was surrounded by the colors of my youth. A new season had arrived. Spring had stripped the sky of the soft white blanket of winter, which wouldn't return for another year. The rhododendron blooms gave witness to the change of seasons, these flowers looking like flames. With a sip of tea, I felt more light-hearted. I saw a bird take off from a rhododendron, its wings so red it was as if they had observed the color of the flower. I wished my eyes could fly with those wings so I could see the entire rhododendron forest and enjoy the grandeur. The snow on the hillside was melting. I wanted to hear the music of that melting. I wanted to follow the path of the melting snow, trickling and splashing against the rock. Its power must terrorize the deep gorges. I wanted to feel that terror. Then I heard a gull telling the porter the policemen went up this trail. They died in an ambush half an hour later. Did all of them die? One porter asked. I wondered if I would see any blood on the trail. I decided I wouldn't let it upset me. I would dismiss it as a reflection of the rhododendron flowers or the play of sunlight and shadow. The people of the hill had been walking up and down these trails for centuries. The footprints of my ancestors were imprinted on these trails. I wanted to touch their footprints, to feel these trails carved from the sweat. If I screamed in loneliness here, the chirping of the birds and the humming of insects would cover the sound of my scream. If I went mad here, my madness would be drowned by the crashing of waterfalls. If I were to weep, anyone who heard me would think it was the cry of a bird. I would walk. Siddhartha and his comrade had left me, but I was determined to finish the journey I had started. I was determined to experience this trial. I could see the prints of cows' hoofs. I grew up drinking cow's milk. I wouldn't let my feet stumble. I was indebted to the cows which had nourished my ancestors. I could almost hear the echoes of their bells. This was the trail along which porters had carried black sleds all the way to my school. This same trail had taken me to school where I had learned the magic of letters, looked through the window of knowledge, and come to understand the language of color. I had developed self awareness on this trail. I had learned how to dream as I walked on this trail. I owed my dreams to this solitude, this forest, these flowers, these hills, and saved the sky and this trail that saved the hills. I wanted to find again the tears that had dropped from my eyes when my mother dragged me to school, pulling me by my ears. After so many years, I was back. I heard the girl tell the porters. The school closed after the teacher was killed. The children don't go to school anymore. They herd cattle now. A poacher asks, isn't this the same village where a political leader was killed some time ago? I left the tea shop nervous about what I would find. Further on, I heard a noise in the forest. At first, it sounded like a monkey jumping from tree to tree, but then my mind gave the sound new shape. I heard footsteps and thought it could be a person, a jackal, a deer. A noise grew louder and the things in my mind grew larger. I started to imagine leopard and bears. I tried not to worry and quicken my steps, but my heart was pounding. I told myself it was nothing. Then suddenly I screamed, "Oh God!" Some cows came crashing out from a dense grove of rhododendrons. Behind them came a cowherd wielding a stick. Relieved, I walked on. The cowherd called after me, "Be careful, Dai. There might be mines on the trail." One exploded a few days ago, just there, he said, pointing with pursed lips. They say there are more mines under the bushes. Be careful. I started to walk very slowly, looking carefully at the ground before every step, but I wanted to enjoy the sight of the rhododendron flowers. These messengers of spring had blossomed so beautifully. The slope beside the trail was covered with flowers, red mosses topping every bush as if to say namaste. Just seeing them thrilled me. I was overwhelmed by the rate of color. My heart took flight at the sight of flowers everywhere above me, below me, to my right, to my left, in front of me, behind me. The whole forest was ablaze with color. There were the same blooms, stems, bushes, forests, and trails I used to pass so many years ago, but I saw them differently now. I was the same person, but my consciousness had changed. From a distance, the cowherd called out to me, "Don't worry too much, Dai, just be alert." I looked at him. It was amazing. He was standing at the edge of a cliff, guiding his cattle. He was so close to danger, yet he was concerned for my safety. I was tossed. That cowherd reminded me of my childhood. He was still tending cattle while I'd become a painter. We were separated by a span of 2 decades, but at this age, I had been no different from him. I spoke like him, I even looked like him. The only difference was that this boy's mother didn't drag him to school by his ears. A bomb had ripped his school apart. After that, 40 of his classmates had been abducted and held for 2 days. The headmaster had been killed. The cowherd came every day to this forest littered with mines. Now, lost in thought, he looked at me, resting his ears on his stick. A little further ahead was a rhododendron tree completely covered with flowers. I stood in a shade. I wanted to pick a flower. I felt blessed to have returned in this vision. After 10 years, I had come back to the rhododendron village, my village, the village which gave birth to me and raised me, educated me, and sent me out into the world. I'd become a painter and now I was returning to search of colors. None of my relatives lived here anymore, but for me this village contained everything. Didn't my painting carry the reflection of these hills and the shadows of this trail? The colors on my canvases came from this village. The rhythm in my paintings came from the waterfalls nearby. These hills gave me my beliefs. These flowers shaped my character. The fog that drifted over this hill shared my secrets. My whole being was made up of the ground on which I was standing, the air I was breathing, and the sunbeams that were bathing me. I took out my notebook and read aloud a poem I had written for my dear PALPASA. I wanted the ear to hear it. Let me take you to the village where I was born behind that hill, to the fields where I played, slippery rocks, rivers filled with fishermen's nets. Let me show you the field on which fluff from the trees falls. Should thick fog cover the village, we shall wake up with the rooster's crows. Should dense mist cover the trails, we shall follow the waterfalls. Should clouds cover the sky, we shall whip them into an umbrella. We shall chase deer along slippery heights, along slopes beneath cold shadows, weeping sweat of our brows. We shall fly with the peasants. I shall braid wild orchid into your hair and take you to my hills. Many have left their birthplace, some have deserted the place that loved them. Everywhere I see, people have left their villages. Everywhere I see those who betrayed love. My village now is like a widow. May spring come, may the rhododendrons color my village. I will take you to the village where I was born. Hearing me recite the poem, the cowherd came up to me. "Are you singing a song, Dai?" he said. I'm reading a poem, I said. Can I copy it? I gave him a pen and a piece of paper and he started copying my poem. I watched him in wonder. When I was his age, I had drawn the hills with pencil in just the same way. I had also written poems back then and written down the songs of the shepherds. I would give them my own rhythm and song them in school. We have the hallmarks of a poet, my teacher said to me once. I replied, I am going to be an engineer, sir. My friends had laughed, pointing to the classmate who laughed the loudest. Teacher said, and you'll be a cowherd. The classmate replied, no, I'll be a schoolmaster, sir. This time the teacher had laughed. Oh, you will be a master, all right, a master tailor. The class erupted in laughter. A girl called Urmila had asked, and what am I going to be, sir? The class laughed again. What do you want to be? The teacher asked. I want to be big. The laughter grew louder. Don't worry, you won't stay small much longer, the teacher said, fueling the laughter. Urmila had blushed profusely. She had been married off before. She had actually grown big, though. We all watched her leave the village in tears with her bridegroom. From that day on, my classmates called me Engineer Saab, all except the boy who wanted to be a teacher. I laughed remembering those days, and my laughter fell to the ground like a rhododendron flower. Why are you laughing, Dai? The cowherd asked. Have I made a mistake in copying the poem? I'm laughing for no reason, I said. He went back to copying the poem. My handwriting's bad, isn't it? He said. No, it's better than mine, I said. Not a lot better, though. Is your school closed? I asked. Yes. When will it reopen? It's wide open. A bomb blew it up, he said. I asked, do you like the poem? It's good. Which book did you copy it from? He asked. I wrote it myself. He looked at me quizzically. But who gave you the ideas to put it in it? I thought of them myself. He looked surprised. Can anyone write a poem by themselves? Anyone can be a poet if they want to be, I said. I don't want to be a poet, he said. I want to be an engineer. I was stunned. Soon I had to move on. As I left, the cowherd again warned me to be careful. Then he went back to the edge of the cliff, where he stood reading the poem out loud. He didn't know the meter, so he gave it a new one, creating a rhythm inspired by the beauty of his surroundings.